Chapter 4, Lesson 3, Coping with Loss and Grief. Alright, probably one of the most difficult things you're ever going to have to go through in your life is going through a loss of a loved one or some type of loss that has occurred in your life. Divorce, moving away from one of your best friends, um, just something that you have lost in your life. Anyways, um, there's a lady by the name of Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross who a long time came up with this thought process that said that when somebody goes through loss and they're grieving, there are basically five stages of grief that they go through. Um, and one thing you got to understand about this chart here is that there is no exact order, and people kind of go through different phases and skip around and go back to certain phases. It's not a real clean and nice, neat procedure. It's something that takes time, and the people work through out on an individual basis. But number one is the denial phase. And if you've ever been told that somebody has passed away in your life, you kind of know what that's like. You just can't believe that that has occurred. Again, it's a defense mechanism. It's something that we're not ready to hear. Um, Obviously, it's a big shock in our life, and we're trying to delay the onset of our emotional pain. At least for the immediate. And then typically what happens is then we realize that obviously the person who's telling us this isn't joking or isn't telling us this to be mean or whatnot. And then a lot of times there's an emotional release that occurs in the fact of crying, and people deal with their emotions differently. Everybody doesn't cry, but there's typically an emotional release that takes place. A lot of people get angry, and anger can come out in lots of different ways. It can get angry at the people who's telling them that this person has passed away. It could get angry at the person who was, their medical support staff, whether it be a doctor, a nurse, whatnot, ambulance driver, whatever the case may be. It could be whatever they believe as far as their spiritual health is considered, and also it could be with a person who's passed away, which seems weird, but when you think about it, the reason why you're hurting is because that person has died, and it's pretty infantile to think that way, but I mean that's the reason they're hurting is that that person has passed on. A lot of times we try to bargain with doctors, bargain with our spiritual beliefs, trying to promise things that necessarily we can't promise, or that isn't going to happen. If you do this surgery, we'll do this, or if you think that God will spare your loved one from dying, you will act like a better person. All those things kind of come up and is a part of the bargaining process. Number four, depression. Um, it really kind of depends on the person. Sometimes people like to be, by themselves and kind of withdraw from things. Sometimes people get really quiet and are silent. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of depression in the sense that someone has passed on and you're not going to see that person anymore. Sometimes remorse is connected to that because you feel like you wish you could have been able to say goodbye. You wish you'd been able to maybe right anything that was wrong in your relationship with that person. Um, and I find that anger, bargaining, and depression are the ones that kind of just keep recycling through. There is no, again, exact course. It doesn't go anger, bargaining, depression in that order necessarily. It kind of is a cyclical thing, and you kind of hover in that area for a while. And then at some point, you get to the acceptance phase where you're facing the reality that not only is this person not going to be around, but yet you can get through your life and um, live on a day-to-day basis without this person. Not the fact that you don't miss this person, not that you don't wouldn't love to have them around any longer, but you just kind of accept the fact that it's an inevitable thing, and we're able to move on. And then the last thing down there is hope, and obviously the hope that you will be able to do this. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it used to take, they used to say it used to take us about a year or so to get through this, and um, you know, sh- a lot of research has been done on grief and whatnot, and now they're saying that it's somewhere between the 5 to 7 year range, and they're thinking a lot of it has to do with the amount of stress that we're under, and that because we have so much stress already, that adding something like this really, obviously is a roadblock into, being able to meet those daily demands and challenges of everyday life, and that we struggled for quite a while with this. I know my father-in-law had passed away, and his family, my wife's family, has really had a hard time. And now, after 10 years, I think a lot of people have gotten into that acceptance phase, but it's taken us a while to get to that area.
Uh-oh. It's no big deal. It's probably not even quicksand. I'm gonna have a good laugh about this tonight with the guys. Well, this is just perfect. Stupid quicksand, stupid jungle. I want to bite someone in the face. Mother. Ah! That stupid jungle. Are you there, God? It's me, Giraffe. Listen, if you would just give me a mulligan on this quicksand thing, I promise. No more peeing on your shorter creatures. What, did you get a deal? You know something? I'm cool with this. I bet heaven has all the tender leaves I can eat, and everyone gets their own Slurpee machine. Yeah, take me, sweet death. I await your loving embrace. What? I think I hit the bottom.
All right, not to make light of the situation, but I found this video, and I thought, God, this is a really good way for my students to remember the grieving process. And again, it's a little lighthearted, but it has always stuck with me, and I always remember the grieving giraffe when I think about the 5 stages of grief. So, what are some factors that influence grief? Well, obviously how well you knew the person is pretty important. Um, I mean, if you didn't know them very well, I mean, all of us have had relatives that have passed away that we didn't know very well. And obviously, when we know the relative person really, really well, the intensity of the grief is different. Age of the person. Seems like people that are older, we kind of accept the fact that they're going to pass away. And we even use those terms. We say pass away. When we have people who are younger that pass away, we think of it as kind of a tragedy, and it's a little bit more intense. Sudden death versus long-term illness. Not that either one of them is easy, but the sudden death one sometimes is a little more sharp because we're not really prepared for it, versus the long-term illness is where we can kind of prepare for it, maybe say those last goodbyes, and are able to write anything that we need writing. Um, and obviously, it's a death is a traumatic event, and there's a lot of mourning that's going on with people, and we're trying to figure out ways to help each other get through those times. So how do we get through some of it? Well, closure is a huge issue. The acceptance of loss, and at least in our area, our part of the Midwest here, we a lot of times have a visitation or wake, and that's that place where to say that final goodbyes and accept the denial factor. it's pretty hard to deny the fact that someone has passed away when they're, in that casket, and we're viewing the body. That's typically why we're doing it, and saying that last goodbye. The funeral is something that has gotten a lot very personal now. There's lots of different kinds of music and lots of different kinds of things that go on with slideshows and video and whatnot, and really makes it personal. Personal. Memorial services are sort of like funerals in a sense, but a lot of times the funeral or the memorial service, the body is not present for lots of different reasons. Sometimes because of cremation, sometimes because of the body not being found, sometimes because the body was buried on its own earlier and then they decided to have a memorial service later. There really is no set way, but at least in the Midwest here, typically we're having visitations and wakes one day, and then the next day is the funeral, and then typically we're headed out to the cemetery to say that final goodbye and to put the body in the ground and have a short service out at the cemetery. These This helps us have closure because we're kind of used to, all our families kind of have a procedure that we do. I know for my family, it's kind of comforting knowing that I kind of know what's coming when I go out to, where my mom and dad were brought up, or the family farm or whatnot. I know kind of what's going to happen, and when I get through the process, I haven't got to acceptance typically all the time, but I do feel like we've honored that person and we're able to move on. Thanks.